everybody. It's Ian, the Off Kilter Crafter.
And I am Becca. And spoiler alert, I think my audio is fixed.
Good. Excellent.
Because for the past 3 episodes, I feel like my audio has not been where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I just found out that in the configurations, my microphone was set at minus 10 decibels, while yours was at a nice 0, which has made editing not fun.
Yeah.
But quilting, spoiler alert for the podcast, I have no desire to quilt.
Oh no! We need to do that dramatic music of bum bum bum.
So I want to have today's discussion about what do you do when quilting isn't fun, right? What do you do when your muse has up and left? What do you, how do you get through it?
Fall on the floor and cry.
Kick and scream, feel like a toddler? I mean, maybe. I have been so busy these past couple of months. It's been a couple months since I started the new project at work.
Yeah.
That by the time I get home in the evening, I'm peopled out, I'm talked out, I'm thought out, and especially in the days where I'm going into the office, they're kind of longer days. I don't have a desire to do anything sewing or YouTube related in my sewing room. And on the days where I do have some free time, I find myself sitting there going, So I want to talk about all of those things today. And this is a topic that I've brought up a lot because it happens frequently in my life. I feel like we go through ebbs and flows.
Absolutely.
So,
and I know that a lot of people have commented or said it in a live chat or posted on Facebook. I've seen many people talking about when they lose the muse.
Ooh, like that.
Maybe we should title the episode that. Lose the Muse. Ooh, I like that. But they lose the muse and they don't know. They ask, like, how do I get it back? So I think this is a really, and especially because we're coming up on the holiday season.
Yeah.
So we've got like a lot going on the next few weeks. And I feel like we get through the holiday season and then everything just kind of crashes. Like it just all just kind of crashes. And then January, February, and even into March, I feel like sometimes people lose because they've been making quilts, they've been making homemade gifts, they've been like going into their sewing room or sewing space almost daily to get things done on time. And so I feel like they lose the muse during that time, and recovering in the new year is always like, how do I get that back? So I think this is a very relevant. I know somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody talked about, can you talk about on the podcast, what do you do when you lose your SoJO and how do you get it back?
I lose my SoJO frequently because I feel like, and when I say frequently, I mean a few times a year.
Sure.
I don't mean every day, every week, right? Like, so I have developed some tips and tricks, to borrow a phrase from Karen Brown. Mm-hmm. I have developed some tips and tricks that help me kind of get back into that creative space. So we'll talk a little bit about those, but we can also talk a little bit about some of the things that I think I feel like play into losing your SoJO. Mm-hmm. So before we get into any of that, we've got to kick off the episode by talking about the quilts that are on our lap. So Ian, why don't you go first?
So, what do you have on your lap? I have one of my most recent finishes that I absolutely love.
Like less than a week ago finished.
Oh, it's crazy. So, this is the Continuum quilt, which for those who don't know the story behind this, I'm going to go over it again, even if you heard it. You, myself, Tiffany, we all decided to sew this together. You and I bought kits at QuiltCon along with Mary. Mary bought a kit as well.
And so did
I think Bill. I think Bill bought one as well.
I think he did too.
Yeah. So several of us bought this kit from Threaded Lines. Hi, Jennifer. Mentioning you again.
Every week. Every episode.
Right, exactly. But anywho, we bought it from them at QuiltCon because I saw this quilt hanging in their booth. I loved it. And I really wanted to make it myself. So we all bought this. Tiffany decided to do it with her own scraps, which this is a perfect scrap quilt.
Absolutely.
I love this quilt as scraps. This was a really great. But you kind of changed yours a little bit because you did a black background as opposed to the gray background that was in it. But anywho, I finished this quilt, and this is the first one that I pieced, quilted and bound on
All
a
by
live
yourself.
stream or on by myself and on YouTube. Like everybody's been with me along the journey.
Every step of the journey.
Every step of the journey for this quilt, which I think is pretty cool. Like,
yeah, we'll link to all those videos. We're going to do our best to keep all the links down below.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say it, but just know that if there are links for you, they're in the
we're
description
going to try
box.
our best to put them in there.
Yep.
But anywho, so this is one of the first quilts that I have done all the parts myself. And this one's really special to me because it has the blue minky on the back, which is...
I can't wait to do minky on the back of a quilt for me. I'm in love.
I've never done this before, and I want to do all the quilts now with it because it is just so soft, and it's a perfect one to put on my lap or hang out on the couch. So I love this one so much. I'm actually getting a little too warm at the moment. I'm also wearing like pajama pants underneath, so it's getting a little warm under here.
Just
but
kick your feet out, be like,
right, exactly. Open it up, let it breathe a moment. But yeah, no, love this quilt, and there will be pictures of this up on the screen, the full quilt hanging beautifully.
You probably have already seen it.
Probably already have seen it at this point. How about you? What do you have on your lap?
So this was called Home Again. It is a 2-color quilt. The pattern is from Lori Holt, and the fabric is actually Lori Holt as well. This was a sew along that Fat Quarter Shop did, a couple years ago, and they reached out and asked me if I would do the sew along alongside of them. I actually haven't done any of the sew alongs that they've asked me for recently just because I haven't had time, but occasionally I do sew alongs with them. So they're very generous. They give me the fabric and the pattern for free. I get to pick from a variety of different things. I do have some parameters that I got to work in. And so I got to pick the fabrics for this, but I had to choose from Lori Holt fabrics. So I chose to go with like this brown gray taupe color. And it's just one block repeated over and over with some sashing and cornerstones. And this quilt is one of my husband's favorites.
Yeah.
He loves this quilt. He likes the colors. Like this is his palette.
Sure.
This is what he likes. And so most of the time this quilt kind of hangs out on our sofa in our family room. But I've switched that up for something with a little bit more color, and this has been in the sewing room with me lately, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to show it off.
Yeah. I feel like we're very contrasty today.
We are. I'm dull and bland, and you're bright and loud.
I mean...
most of them,
accurate. But
no,
just kidding. But no, that's a good quilt to have. It's a big one.
It is a big
very
one.
big
It
one.
is a big one. I remember I sent this to Beth to do the quilting on it, and when she took the pictures of it, I think Austin, her husband, had to step up on a ladder to get the pictures because it was so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it is a good size quilt.
It's a very good size.
So that's what I've got. But somebody's going to ask the hoodie that I'm wearing, because the word on it is Nanook, N-Y-N-U-K. They're going to ask, what is that? So I'm just going to tell you right now, this is a New Kids on the Block reference. Hashtag boy band.
Okay. Got it.
So if you know, you know. If you don't know, it's just the name that they had before they officially branded themselves as New Kids on the Block back in the mid-80s.
I didn't know that. Oh, interesting.
Yep. So it was this. So on the last cruise, I think it was the last cruise, or maybe it was the cruise before, I can't remember, but during one of the cruises, they were selling... you see me wear the blue sweatpants with the blue hoodie. Yeah. It's a whole sweatpant outfit.
Gotcha.
I'm only wearing the hoodie today. But they were selling that as a combination, and I bought one, and I'm freezing all the time now. So everywhere I go, I'm in a hoodie now. Which is different than where I was last year. Like last year, this time I was just hot all the time, and now I'm like, I need more layers. So living in hoodies. I only have two, so it's this one and my Sew Becca hoodie, and that's it. I'm
definitely not used to the cooler weather a majority of the time, because like in Texas a couple of weeks ago it was still 90 degrees. So like I would still be burning up, and I'm not used to not wearing like shorts all the time and all of that. So it's definitely a temperature adjustment. I'm so glad that I'm a quilter, because having all the quilts is super nice to have all the time. But anyway.
For reference, I think it was 51 today.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a little chilly.
Yeah.
I went in and checked the thermostat in my husband's office. I was like, it's so cold, babe. It's so cold in here. And I looked, and it was 68. And I was like, what do you have the heat set on? He's like, 68. I was like, okay, boop, 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 boop. And I turned that puppy up to 72. I was like, no, we can make it a little bit warmer. A little bit warmer. If I've got to pull out a space heater, there's something wrong. So anyway,
oh my goodness.
So I'm happy that I have the hoodies. That's what's on the hoodie, and I'm happy I have the quilts.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So talking about losing the muse and
Bye-bye.
how it always
Adios.
It happens. It happens
She
to
likes
everybody.
to take vacations from me. And I think it's because I'm overbearing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just putting her through her paces so much that she's like, I need a vacation from you. And she just runs away. And when that happens, I'm left going, what?
Well, you have a lot going on. You talked about a lot going on at work.
I do. Yep.
You spend a lot of time using a lot of brain power at your job.
Yeah.
Doing all the things, making all the decisions, and you get decision fatigue. I know 100%. At work, I've gotten decision fatigue, and I feel like that plays into it.
Yep.
You also have recently upgraded your long arm to Pro Stitcher.
Oh, wait, so this is a real thing. Let me take it back a step for a minute, and we'll talk a little bit about. I'm noticing that the little vent on my HVAC is pointed all the way down.
I noticed that too.
I just noticed that, so I'll have to look at that later. Anywho, spoiler alert. Yes, squirrel. Somebody's gonna ask. Now Ian can't not see it.
Now it's like moving.
Well, because it's doing the swing thing, but normally when it does a swing thing, it doesn't go all the way down. Oh. Can you snap a picture of that with your phone after the podcast is over? Because we'll put that up there so people are like, what were you distracted by?
Look at?
Yeah. So let me just take you a step back, because somebody's going to ask, what do you do for a living? This always comes up anytime I talk about my job. So I will just tell you that I am a project manager in IT, right? And so I have a very big project on my plate right now that's going to keep me busy through most of 2025. It started in September. I'm very excited about this. I love it. But as a project manager, I am overseeing and delegating and coordinating and talking and making decisions literally all day long. And I love every second of it. But by the time I get home, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to interact with anybody. And I don't want to make any decisions at all. In fact, we went to get a pedicure with my sister.
Yep.
And we walked in, or we went to the car to go in, to go to the pedicure place. And Ian and Nicole were talking about like what they wanted and what they were going to do. And I was like, you know what? I want to not make a decision. Like, I don't want to make a decision. And I said that kind of half joking, but also kind of half serious. And so I get there.
More like 75% serious.
Yeah, 75% serious, 25%. Are you really going to take me up on it? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So we get in there.
Did. No,
you did.
We get in. No, before we even got in there, you had to go to the UPS store.
Oh, that's right.
And mail a package. She needed to go mail a package. And I needed to, I don't remember if I was mailing something to or picking something up, but I went into the UPS store with her. And she's like, okay, you put your package down. And we're like, oh, I need to ship this out. And the lady starts asking questions, and I jump in because she's like, I don't want to answer any questions.
We did.
I jump in, and you were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you didn't want to make any decisions. And you're like, oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was so freeing. But then that carried forward to the whole evening. So we get to the spa. Yep. We're sitting down. We're getting our pedicures. And every time the lady that was sitting in front of me was asking a question, I just look at Nicole or Ian, and they were like, boop, boop, boop. So my toenails got painted. I didn't have to pick the color. I didn't have to pick the scent. I didn't have to pick. And then the parts where they were like scrubbing, and it was my favorite part. Nicole knows those, so she would tell the girl that's her favorite part. It was so great. So, but anyway, let's bring this back to quilting.
Do we have to?
I need another pedicure.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to quilting, sometimes our projects are so full of decisions. And when you get that decision fatigue, you just get to a point where you're like, I just cannot. And that's where I feel like sometimes a palette cleanser or a project like a block of the month or something where the fabric's already picked for you. And goodness, I mean, shameless plug for Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt, but that's another example of something that you could work on where you don't have to think, you just follow the directions, right?
Absolutely.
So
And the decision fatigue was happening to, I watched you kind of spiral last night a little bit because she wants to work on a place for everything bag. I want to work on that too. I want to make that bag. We both want to work on it together, work on our own bags together. But I watched you spiral looking at your wall of fabric.
I did.
And trying to pick out which ones. And I kept reminding you, this is going to happen. Mary's going to be coming up.
And we're going to do it when Mary's here.
And we're going to be doing it when Mary's here. But you were wanting to choose your fabric. You were wanting to get that done. But I watched you spiral on, well, I saw the decision fatigue happening in real time as you were and I'm like, well, you don't have to pick it tonight, but I could tell that you wanted to.
So gentle with that, but I also realized in that moment, so I'm looking at the fabric that's on my wall and I've got enough of it that I should be able to find something, but there's nothing jumping out at me going, please play with me. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's pretty. Oh yeah, I have that. It's not inspiring me. And so I'm like, I'm just burned out on all the fabric because I've seen it. All that fabric has been on my shelf for a long time. So I already know it's there. It's not new. It's not exciting. It's not something fun. And in that moment, I was like, aha, tip number 1. Sometimes when you have that lack of a muse, when she's gone on vacation, the way to get your SoJO back is to be inspired by something else, whether it's fabric, a project that somebody else has made, watching someone's YouTube videos, like the visual stimulation is inspiring. And I couldn't, I think part of the reason why I couldn't feed that is because I was so just fatigued out from work, but also there's nothing new in the stash because I'm not really buying a lot of fabric. I'm using what I have. So that it was kind of too, but yeah, I did. I was like, oh, I like this. No. This is back and forth.
I don't even feel like you got that moment. I saw you I was like, it was a lot of, oh yeah, I have, this, like the only time I saw it jump out at you was when you brought out, what is it? Handmade by Tula Pink. I saw you pull that out in the sewing machines and I was like, okay, she's found her first fabric. Like maybe.
But also you want to know what was going through my head at that moment? It wasn't just the pick of the fabric. It was, am I even going to use this bag? Like it was all of the things. So the thought in my head was, what fabric? I don't know. What do I want mine to look like? I don't know. Am I even going to use this bag? I don't know. Oh man, now I'm going to have to do hand piecing because this is a bag that I envision using for hand piecing. I don't know, like all of the I don't knows. And every time there was another I don't know, I would just go back to square one. And so it was like that constant loop.
Yeah, feedback loop that kept going
It just kept going. It just kept going. But you said something last night that I had not even realized when we were talking about it. I was like, I told Ian, I think I'm just done piecing.
Yeah.
I think I just don't want to sew anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just done. And I didn't mean forever. I just meant now.
Yeah.
And you said about the long arm.
Yep. It's new. It's new. And you have, I know you well enough that you tend to hyper focus. Shocking. You tend to hyper focus into one area. So like, for instance, I've known you piecing a long time and then you got Ruby. Oh, and you hyper focused with Ruby. You're like, I want to do everything on Ruby. I want to make everything on Ruby now. This is my main machine. Forget the Juki. It's going to go over in timeout. Like Ruby's going to be it. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right. I didn't think it was going to last, to be honest. I thought you were going to get Ruby. You would be on Ruby for a month or two. And then you'd be like, okay, back to the Juki. Not happened. Surprisingly. Then you upgraded to Pro Stitcher. And you jumped on that like nobody's business. I don't think I've seen anybody learn Pro Stitcher as quickly as you have. Like,
really?
Yes. Like you have just absorbed it so incredibly quickly.
I love it.
Yeah. And
it is what I have wanted to do from day one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say day one, I don't mean the day that I bought the long arm. Yeah. I mean the day that I decided I was going to spend money to invest in a quilting machine.
Yep.
Like when I decided I wanted to do quilting and I found out what free motion quilting was, I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the long arm has been a catch-22. And I don't ever want to be an advocate for you got to spend all the money on the fancy toys.
Yeah.
However, I want to quilt like Tiffany.
Yeah.
I want to quilt like some of those quilters out there. And I do not have the hand-eye coordination to do that.
Same.
I know if I practice, I can get better. And one day I could reach that level. And shout out to every one of those, Natalia Bonner, Angela Walters, Tiffany Groff. Hey. Shout out to all of them. Mad quilting skills, and they're doing that by hand.
Yeah.
I don't have the time or the energy to put into the practice to get to that level.
Yeah.
I would love to say I do, but even in those moments where I have the time to practice, I feel like I'm wasting a quilt or I'm wasting fabric so that I can scribble all over it. There are some things that I can do halfway decently, but what I really want to do is the wow quilting.
Yeah.
Right? And I have a hard time with that. So the automation allows me to have very precise quilting. It looks professional and I don't have to draw it.
Yeah.
But I don't want everything just to be edge to edge.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to achieve a custom quilting look by using the software. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm all in on this right now because I'm super excited about this. Is years in the making for me.
Yeah.
So what he said last night as we were sitting here talking about piecing and things, I told him I thought I was done piecing. He's like, no, I think you're just in love with Pro Stitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I truly think that's what it is.
I hadn't thought about that.
You have gone full in on it, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
I'm about to run out of quilt tops.
Well, there is that. So
I got to piece some more.
You got to piece some more in order to do the quilting, or you got to open a business. Either
I
one.
don't have time for business.
But yeah, I brought that up, and you were like, oh,
yeah.
It kind of surprised me that you hadn't thought about that.
I
hadn't thought in that way.
I hadn't. But I realized that that was part of the reason why my Muse has left.
Yep.
Because I was scrolling through Fat Quarter Shop looking for some backing for this quilt that's hanging on the long arm that I want to quilt. It's sitting right there. I'm staring at it right now. And I couldn't decide on which one to do, so I started going down a rabbit hole of other fabric to buy, and I was looking at whale fabric and some other things, thinking that maybe I could use that for a place for everything bag. Mm-hmm. And I came across a panel. It's from the National Park series from Riley Blake. It's the Alaska one with the whale tail. Yep. And I saw it, and immediately my mind was like, ooh, that would be fun to quilt. That's when you said that, and then I drew that parallel. I was like, oh, I just want to quilt. Yep. I just want to quilt right now. That's where my mind is. So, yeah.
Yeah, because you said that. You said you were talking about, oh, this would be fun to quilt. Oh, that would be fun to quilt. And it was like, oh, you're in the quilt mindset right now. You're not in the piecing mindset. You're not in the sewing mindset. You're in the quilting mindset right now. So I feel like your muse for sewing and piecing is kind of left for a little bit.
She's on vacation.
Yeah. She has the do not
disturb.
A new one.
We have a new one.
Yeah.
So what do we do to, like, have you been in that? Like, when was the last time? I'm there now a little bit, but when was the last time you were there?
So it's weird because for the most part, I haven't really gotten to a point when the muse was gone for me. A lot of times for me, I like to bounce between several different projects. I usually have 2 or 3 projects running at a time. One of them may be a bag. One of them may be a quilt. One of them may be another quilt. Like usually have several projects running at one point. And a lot of that is also because of YouTube. And I need to make content and create content. So on a live stream, I might be working on one project. And in my personal sew, I might be working on another project. So, people ask me all the time, think to the time that you lost your SoJo last time. And I'm kind of like, "Ooh, I don't lose it very easily for me."
Pause. I think I heard car doors. I think my husband's home.
Oh, I heard a
yep,
car
there
door.
it is. Hold that thought. We're going to be right back. Okay, I think we can continue.
Boo!
No,
Aw,
you didn't get me.
dang.
You didn't get me.
Dang.
Okay, I don't know if we're all right. Sorry about that. My husband came home from my daughter's saxophone lesson, and I was sure they were going to walk through here, and so I didn't want to be midstream
Right.
and have to be like,
Right.
So you were saying, you were talking about you haven't really lost your muse.
Yeah, I haven't. There hasn't been too many occasions when I've lost my muse and have lost my SoJo, and I know that that's unusual because most people in one form or another will lose it for a little bit. But a lot of times for me, I don't know. I guess I'm weird because I haven't really, when I lose my SoJo, it's more towards specific fabrics or specific projects versus just losing it completely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
don't know.
normally bounce between projects as well. My SoJo tends to leave when I get excited about something else,
Mhm.
aka Pro Stitcher, when I have when I feel a little overwhelmed or satisfied
Mhm.
from my 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
So if I feel very accomplished or satisfied in my 9 to 5, then this kind of takes a back seat for
Yeah.
me a little bit. So I'm glad that you haven't lost it.
Yeah.
But I have.
Yep.
And so I have had to come up with ways that I can get it back.
Yep.
When you're making YouTube content, you got to feed the beast.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
a part of my journey on YouTube is being able to create content to inspire other quilters,
Mhm.
right? So how can I inspire you if I'm not making anything?
Right.
If I'm sitting in front of the camera going, oh, I just don't have the want to, I just can't want to, that's not going to help you.
Yeah.
Right? That's not going to make you want to do anything. So I can give you a few things that I've done to help kind of get that back.
Yep.
And we'll just talk about them.
Yeah, we'll talk about them because even though I haven't lost my SoJo that often, I still have tips and tricks that help when I did lose it or I needed something to get me going again. I have some tips and tricks for that as well.
My first tip for you is take the break. It is okay to tell yourself that you're not going to work on the project.
Mhm.
Pack it up, put it away. If it means that you're working on a different project, fine. If it means you're not sewing at all, fine. If it means you're playing video games instead, fine. Do the thing that brings you joy.
Yep.
It's kind of a little bit like what they say with dieting, right? If you want the cookie, eat the cookie. Don't eat the chips and then the peanut butter sandwich and then the ice cream. Just eat the cookie.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Take a break. If you're on a deadline, consider pushing the deadline out, right? Or coming up with a plan where you're only working on that project in small bits, small increments, right?
Mhm.
Maybe one block a night or 15 minutes of sewing a day, whatever it takes. But it's okay to put something on the shelf and not work towards it.
Yep.
I think we as a society, and I'll blame my parents' generation for this, or maybe even my grandparents' generation, I think we have a tendency that if you start something, you need to finish it.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times my mom.
Food,
Yep.
projects, tasks, like,
Yep.
no, you don't have to. You don't have to finish everything that you start.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying throw the stuff away. What I am saying is if you've started a project and it's no longer bringing you joy, it's okay to put it on the shelf. And if you go back to that project and it's not going to bring you joy and you just know you never want to do it, it's a sunken cost, it's not going to get done, don't let that hang over your head. Declare quilt bankruptcy.
Yep.
And you can do that by paying that project forward to another quilter who does want to use that or does want to work on that project or repurposing the materials into another project. It just means that you're going to stop at the point that you got to and you're going to pivot and go in another direction instead of wasting, I won't say wasting, but instead of exerting more time and energy on the project that's not bringing you any joy. At the end of the day, Unless you are doing this to make a living and sell things, all of this should be about being happy and enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying the journey, then pivot.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's the first thing. Take the break.
Absolutely. Take the break. If the project is stressing you out, or you just need to step away from it, I always like saying that I'm putting my project in timeout. My project is going into timeout, and it's okay to put it in timeout, clear it off, put it in containers. It's going in timeout. I've had to do that because I want to make button-up shirts, and I was working on a button-up shirt, and it had French seams in it, which I've never done before.
Oh, they're so easy.
Great. You can show me.
I will show you.
Show me how to do them. But I was putting the shirt together and just could not get the hang of it, and was like, this is stressing me out. I don't need to be this stressed about it. You're going in timeout. Like, it's going in timeout.
Sometimes that timeout can be a week.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a year. It could be a decade. And that's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
So that's my first tip.
Yeah.
Take the time out. Take the break. Declare quilt bankruptcy. Pay it forward. Repurpose it. Pivot. Whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sometimes, though, that's not enough.
Yep.
Right? Sometimes your muse, you lose your muse. I love that. Sometimes you lose your muse not because of a single project.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you lose your muse because you just don't want to.
Yep.
You just don't want to. And in that moment, think about the thing that you do want to do,
mm-hmm.
right? There have been times where I've just not wanted to be in the sewing room. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to be in front of the computer. I couldn't want to. And all I wanted to do was play Minecraft.
Yep.
So I did. It kind of plays back into the whole take the break piece, right? I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
Do the thing that brings you joy so that you can get to the place where you need to be.
Absolutely. So, absolutely.
What about you?
So my tip that I tell people is go for the small win.
Oh, yeah.
This one's such a good one. Like, I tell people this one all the time because it is so successful.
It is.
And it has worked very well for myself, and I have watched other people go through this and go for the small win. So what I mean by that is go for a project that you can complete, that it's going to...
You get that sense of accomplishment.
You get that, what is it, serotonin hit? Like, you get that hit of accomplishment, because a lot of times for me, I pretty much know how to do the Holland pouch without instructions. Like, I've
100%.
done it so many times. Holland pouch, Hemingway pouches. I know how to make those almost by memory now. Yeah. And those are such small wins, because when I finish them, when I put them together, I can finish them in an hour, maybe 2 hours at most. And then I put it together and I finish it. I have completed something, and that serotonin hits. And I'm like, I finished this project. Mm-hmm. And this tip really works, especially if you've been frustrated or mad at a project. Like, if you have that project that you sewed that seam 5 times in a row and you did it backwards every single time. Put that project away, step away, go do an easy win project. Make a keychain, make a pot holder, find those simple win projects that you can do. You can sew it with your eyes closed. Mm-hmm. And that little hit of serotonin helps so much, being able to get back into it and be like, okay, I accomplished this. A lot of times when I finish that project, I'm done sewing for the day. And I'll be like, you know what? This was a very successful day. I have a Holland pouch done. Great. And when I come into the sewing room or sewing area next time, everything's been cleared out. The bad mojo is gone. My muse is back, and I'm ready to jump back into it. And I don't know what it is about that serotonin hit, but it's what gets me back into it and back going again. So
that's awesome.
Go for the small win.
I've done the small win as well. I will add on to that one of the other things that I'll sometimes do, if I don't have a small win or a small project to knock out, I'll invent a small project. And sometimes that's just as simple as taking a pack of 5-inch squares and just sewing them together.
Yep.
I don't have to think about the sizing. I don't have to think about the cutting. I don't have to think about coordinating fabric. Like they just are designed to go together. And if I need it to be bigger, I'll pull 2 of them, right? Yep. It's that I've extended that into sometimes we just pull pre-cuts that are all the same size and we just sew them together.
Yep.
So I will say another tip that I have is sometimes getting rid of clutter. Now, this is something that I don't think will translate well for everybody here, but I know for me, I definitely get to a point where if my area is a little too cluttered or a little too messy, I start to shut down. And just having that freshly tidied space allows the muse to come back out, right? So, and it doesn't have to be like detail clean from top to bottom. It could just be this one surface that's been collecting all of the things. Let me just put those away, right?
Yeah.
Or running the vacuum on the floor. There's something about having a freshly vacuumed floor that makes your studio or your space or your room feel like it just got deep cleaned.
Yep.
It was just the vacuum. Those things really help me. And I got to give Mary a shout out here because Mary is very much like that. Everything's got a place. Everything's in its place. And every time she walks in here, I'll think my room is tidied and organized. And I have seen the woman sit in my room when I'm like, oh, it looks great. And she's like, yeah, we need to do some stuff in here. And I'm like, where? Well, what are you talking about? But and it's never meant to be a degrading thing, but she's got that eye and she'll go through and she likes to find ways to organize and tidy it up and put everything where it needs to be. And every single time she does that, I get this fresh, like, burst of excitement, energy, wanting to work. So I would say another tip would be tidying up and getting rid of some of the clutter. Yeah. I think it can be overstimulating to see it all the time.
Oh, for ssure. And I'm definitely guilty of the horizontal surface syndrome
I've never heard that.
It's a term. I don't know if I've made it up. I feel like I may have been the one that made it up, but I have
name it and claim it, dude.
I have horizontal surface syndrome because if there is a horizontal surface, I will put stuff on it.
Oh, same, 100%.
I will put stuff on it, and it just gets cluttered.
Every table in my life becomes the junk table.
Yep, absolutely.
Every single time, and that's part of the reason why I had such a hard time after I moved in here. I had built all these shelves on the wall in my sewing room. And I was like, that's so much storage. I'm going to be great. But I still had clutter. Yep. And I was like, I don't understand. Well, it's because I have, what do you call it?
Horizontal surface syndrome.
Okay. HSS.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I have HSS. And Mary figured out that I needed some drawers and some clothes storage. Yeah. And that has helped. Yeah. But I still put stuff on the surface all the time.
Oh, no, I mean, we all do it. We all do it right now in my apartment. I have a dining table that was the apartment was partly furnished when I moved in. Yeah. And so right now I'm working temporarily at that table to do my live streams, and on the other end of the table, because it was a horizontal surface and because it was blank, I just kind of started throwing stuff there, and it's driving me crazy because I walk past it every day and I see all the stuff there and I'm like, I need to clean this. I need to organize this.
Have you ever seen the movie The Intern?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Love this movie. Gonna have to make you watch it. Okay. Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. Yeah. One of Jason's favorite movies. He loves a good rom-com. Okay. But we've seen this movie a million times. But in the movie, Anne Hathaway plays this lady who started a clothing business called About the Fit.
Oh, okay.
So she owns the company, and it's a startup, and it's in Brooklyn. But there's a table in there where everybody just piles their stuff. And every time she walks past it, she's like, oh, don't do that.
That's the table.
That's the
table that I have right now. And I'm hoping when Mary comes up that Mary will be able to come over and help me organize and Mary
before and after pictures in that vlog.
Right, exactly. Mary is amazing with organization, and Mary, please help me.
Oh, but the woman needs to start her own business.
She does. Oh my gosh, she would make so much money.
Do you know how many quilters would be like, I will pay for
Right.
you to come stay with me for a week to organize me.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
there's a whole thing on professional organization.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, but
we are digressing totally.
But yeah, so I have horizontal surface syndrome all the time. And I think a lot of you out there have it as well. So I think that's a great tip to take some time to clean and organize. And like Becca said, it doesn't have to be that deep clean. You don't have to scrub every inch of your space. You
That's
don't
right.
have to dust every inch of your space. Take some time to declutter.
But if you want to, that's okay.
Oh, that's
too.
okay too. Absolutely.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I have another tip, but before I give mine, I'm curious if you have another one that you want to share.
So my big one is the
quick win?
the small wins.
Okay.
Go for the small wins.
Okay.
Other things that I've done in the past is, I mean, we've kind of talked about it, walking away, putting projects in timeout, doing the thing that does bring you joy and does bring you. Actually, I do have another tip.
Go for it.
Sew with a friend. That is another tip.
Get out of my head.
Was that what you were going for?
I had two that I had at the top of my head.
That's
So
funny.
we did not prepare our
No.
list. We're just shooting from the hip.
Yep.
That was going to be one of them.
That's so funny.
That was going to be one of them. So you spend an obscene amount of time in my home,
Yep.
in my sewing room,
Yep.
sewing with me, especially because your sewing room is not set up right now, right? And so you can either bring your project here, and obscene is not a bad term. Like,
Right.
he's just here a lot.
Just here.
But you spend a lot of time here, and it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have someone to sew with.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
fun to have the conversations. It's fun to
Yep.
watch a TV show, a movie, whatever, while you're sitting and working together. Because I mean, there are times that we're not talking to each other.
Absolutely.
We're not gabbing 24/7.
Yep.
We're in the same space. It's nice to share the space and it's nice to hang out, but it's also nice to watch Masked Singer.
Oh.
It's nice to
Don't we
watch-
have an episode to watch
We
too?
have like, I think 2 episodes.
Oh, I
No,
can't
1 or
wait.
2 episodes. But anyways, we have, it's fun to hang out with that person. And it's also fun because you get instant feedback.
That's right.
You get instant feedback on, hey, do these colors work together? Hey, does this design look good? You get that instant feedback of being able to do that. But not everybody gets to hang out in the same space.
That's right.
But Zoom, FaceTime,
That's right.
all those things are still available. So even if your friends are 1,000 miles away, you can still, even hanging out on a digital space, I feel like helps with that muse and helps bring her back and is able to kind of recharge you and reinvigorate you.
Yep. And that translates into the other one that I had in the back of my head. So I remember when I lived in Arlington, I had started doing these Friday night live streams. And I do the live stream and people would come, they're talking about how they love it. And then after the live stream's over, I'd go do my weekend, right? But I would hear people talk about how they loved that. And I didn't understand what they meant because I'm not experiencing the live stream the same way that they are.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing it from the point of I am the entertainment. I am the person giving the content. And then one day, I had been hearing about Laura Lynn from Mom and Pop Quilt Shop. I had been hearing about this channel, Mom and Pop Quilt Shop. Shout out to Laura Lynn and Kent.
Hi, guys.
I've been hearing about them for a while, and everybody said that they did live streams at a certain time on Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time on Saturdays. And then occasionally they would do a 12-hour live stream.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to check them out. I'm going to check them out. And I kept telling myself that I would, and I would forget because Saturdays are family days for us. Well, one day I'm downstairs. They're doing a 12-hour live stream, I think it was, and I decided I was going to jump in for just a little bit of it. And I turned it on and I started playing it, and I'm watching Laura Lynn sew. And as she's doing that, I had no desire to sew at the time. I was just like, meh, I don't want to work anything. But seeing her at the machine, hearing the machine, seeing her being happy, seeing the fabric, whatever she was working on, I couldn't even tell you what she was working on. Seeing her work on it was inspiring me to want to do something too. It was making me want to get out of my seat and work on something.
Yeah.
So there have been a number of times where I have no SoJo. I have no desire to work on something. I just want to be lazy. But I happen to pop on to a YouTube video of another creator, another creative creator who's working on something. And it's like, I want to go be creative too.
Yeah.
And so that alone will bring me into the sewing room.
Yep.
So if you don't have the friends that you can sew with in person and you don't have a digital medium to be able to sew with them online, you can always use YouTube University to watch replays, edited videos, live streams. There's a ton of creative content creators out there now that can help you kind of get back on that horse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I've got some playlists for you down below on this channel if you want to check out my videos or Ian's.
Oh, yep. Either one of ours.
But yeah, I think the content creator, I didn't realize how powerful that was till I experienced it with Laura Lynn.
Absolutely. And I've had people on my live stream and in my community, because there's been a few times that I've done like 6 or 7 hour lives.
Oof.
And they're like, oh, we want more of this. And honestly, the suggestion came about around the time that I was getting ready to move. And so I was like, can't do it yet. But once I get my sewing space up, I was like, maybe once a quarter, I'll do a 7 hour live stream where I, hang out, we work on a project, like an all day thing where I'm live all day and we hang out, or into the evening, depending on what it is, or, maybe New Year's Eve or something like that. We do a whole, long live stream. That gets to be a lot, not going to lie. I think after that, I lose the muse for about 12 hours and then I come back and whatnot. But another tip that I have, this one's going to be really silly and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, but take a bath. You're like, what? I find when I relax in a tub, like if I relax in the tub and just let my stresses go away and melt away, like I feel better. I feel so much better after just soaking in a tub for a little while. I don't know. And that's probably just a personal thing to me. You're shaking your head like, that's you, dude. That's you.
My big butt don't fit in tubs. So there's that. You're sitting there like soaking a tub. I'm like, when was the last time I was in a tub? Actually, I know when the last time I was soaking in a tub. But my bedroom does our ensuite has a very large walk-in shower.
Yeah.
We don't have a soaking tub.
That's fair.
So I would have to use Zoe's, and her bathroom is very small, or I'd have to use my mom's downstairs, and I don't want to use either one. So that's not an option for me. But you know what could be an option for me? If somebody wanted to gift me a hot tub for Christmas, I would soak in that.
Jason!
But I don't disagree with your sentiment. Finding a way to relax. I think is the underline there, right? For you, it's soaking in a tub.
Yeah.
For somebody else, it might be getting a pedicure. For somebody else, oh gosh, it might be sitting on a hammock swing that I am hoping Santa brings for me for Christmas.
Well, I think the root of what I'm getting at is when I'm soaking in the tub, I let my mind wander, and that can allow me it de-stresses me. Because I'm relaxing in the tub, but I'm also allowing my mind to wander and I'm thinking about who knows what. But my mind will sometimes go through, what projects do I want to do? What fabric inspires me? What, I allow my mind to wander through the different areas of creativity. And usually that will be a good guide for what do I want to work on next, or what is inspiring to me that like brings back that SoJo, or I don't know if any of this makes sense, but there you go. Like it allows my mind to wander and go into places that it's like, oh, this is fun. Let's go in this direction,
Yeah. I will say along those lines, another tip that I'll have is finding inspiration in the everyday.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're talking about thinking through and letting your mind wander, but I'm taking that to a place where it's a little bit more deliberative, right? I don't even know if deliberative is a word, but you're it's something more tangible. So going to a quilt shop, just walking around and looking at the fabric. And if there's a piece that jumps out at you that you love, buy the piece. Even if you don't have a project for it, buy a yard of it, right? And then maybe you're going to bring it home, and that one yard is going to inspire you to pull some out of your stash to work with. Magazines.
Oh yeah.
Books, Pinterest, all sort of patterns. Oh my goodness, I love collecting patterns.
Yes.
I have a ton of them, and it's not because I'm going to intend to make them. I use my patterns as lookbooks for inspiration for future projects.
Absolutely.
And then when I decide I want to make something, I usually pull the pattern out, and the picture is a guide map for how I'm going to start, and then I go off in my own direction.
Yes. Patterns are just suggestions.
Find most instructions are just recommendations for how you might consider putting something together.
Yep.
Don't let me build your furniture.
IKEA. No, I'm just kidding.
I have leftover parts.
I was the other thing that I tend to do is I'll go on Google image search.
Oh, okay.
And I will put in the keyword. So if I'm like, I'll say fat quarter bundle quilt and put that into Google image search and pull up all the different kinds of pictures of fat quarter patterns, fat quarter projects, fat quarter quilt, whatever. Or I can type in a specific line of fabric. And a lot of times I'll get just pictures of the fabric itself, but sometimes I'll get patterns or projects that have been done with that fabric. There's so many different keywords that you can use to help get inspired by it. But I use Google image search all the time. I'm always like, oh, I have a fat quarter bundle. That is because I don't know what to do with a fat quarter a lot of times.
Do you know with a fat quarter bundle, your typical fat quarter bundle that has about 30 pieces in it, you can make so many quilts from that one fat quarter bundle. Which is really... It's a ridiculous amount of fabric.
I'm going to qualify that not eating quilts because I like my big quilts.
Okay, but you might be able to make a couple.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fabric in those fat quarter bundles. And I didn't realize that until a couple of years ago. We had started... I was working on a quilt and I pulled a fat quarter bundle off of my shelf to work with it. And I had whole fat quarters left over after the quilt top was made, enough to easily make a second, possibly even third, maybe a little baby fourth quilt. So don't underestimate how much fabric is in those fat quarter bundles.
Also, don't underestimate how much is in your scraps. I think that's another thing to do is go look at your scraps and just start sewing them together. Just sew your scraps together because I can't even tell you how many things that I have created.
Or give them away.
I have created so many zippered pouches just sewing my scraps together.
Really?
And being like, I didn't want to get deep into a project. I didn't have time. I maybe had 2 hours before I needed to be somewhere but I wanted to sew for an hour, dedicated hour. I wanted to sew. Grab my scraps, just started sewing them together to basically make my own fabric. And then I would use that to create a zippered pouch and be like, okay, this is leftover fabric. I've now turned it into a zippered pouch Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, whatever gifts. I can use that for those kinds of gifts or, all sorts of different things.
I want to meet you there, but the chaos of scrappiness hurts my brain.
Sure.
I don't mind coordinated scrappy.
Sure.
But true scrappy?
Yeah.
No, I cannot do it. In fact, that will cause my muse to pack her bags and leave.
Bye.
See ya.
Yeah.
So no, I can't do that. So what I will do with my scraps is I go back to the clutter, right? Your scraps multiply like bunnies. And so I will start packaging them up into bundles that can be gotten rid of, given away, donated, whatever the case may be. And then I feel like my area is a little bit cleaner and my muse comes back.
Or your sister picks up all of them.
Or my sister picks it. Yeah.
Picks up all your scraps and says mine.
Yeah. You know what, though? I do like after, and I don't know if this is a change because I feel like as a quilter we evolve
All the time.
right? And I can even see in myself over the past year things that I'm doing now that I didn't do a year ago or thought I would never do.
Yep.
For example, a year ago when I was done with a quilt, don't hate me, I would just take whatever leftover backing was on there. I would take it and just be like, okay, it's okay. I don't need to keep the scrap batting and I don't need to keep the scrap backing. Don't hate me. Now, what I'm doing is if the batting is bigger than a certain piece, I'm folding it up and I'm putting it on my shelf and I am franken batting in some of my quilts because that's batting I could use or using it in a smaller project. And the backing I'm taking and I'm cutting away any areas where I stitched onto the back and the batting because that's not going to be usable. I'm not going to rip the stitch.
Right.
But the fabric, there's usually a really good chunk of that fabric.
Yep.
And I'm choosing backings that I love, so I don't want to let go of that fabric. And I've got some big pieces from those backings. So I'm taking the time after every quilt to kind of reclaim the scrap, folding it nicely, and I'm putting it in a scrap bin.
Yep.
Now, am I going to keep it? Probably not. I am sure when my sister shows up in 2 weeks for Thanksgiving or next week, because that's the straps before Thanksgiving. When my sister shows up for Thanksgiving, she's going to go, mine! And they're all going to leave with her. And I'm okay with that because I know she will use it. She will enjoy it. That's something that I don't need.
Right.
And it serves a purpose for her. She feels fulfilled because she gets the extra fabric.
Right.
I feel like I got to give her something. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it didn't go to a landfill, so even better.
I love to take extra backings because before I started using your long arm, when I was getting my quilts done by either Nancy or Beth, they give me back the extra backing. I use my backing for the insides of my bags, and it's perfect.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yes,
especially with those backings that have that silky feel.
Yes, exactly. And y'all know I love Tula Pink, so I'm getting a lot of Tula Pink backings. Love using that as the insides of my bags, the linings of my bags.
That's a good idea.
And usually you're dealing with large pieces, so you don't have to like worry about, stitching them together or anything like that. It's usually you have enough to make a full inside without having to piece it.
I put a 108 on my long arm for a quilt. And when the quilt was done and I pulled off the backing, I remember looking at the piece of backing that was left. I was like, this is easily a yard's worth of fabric.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It was kind of amazing. So,
well, and I deliberately bought 3 yards of fabric last night for a quilt that Beth is going to work on for me.
Okay.
I deliberately bought 3 yards of fabric because I wanted the extra fabric. I wanted the extra backing fabric, and I wanted there to be plenty that I can do another project or something with it. So instead of buying 2.5 yards, I bought 3 yards, so that half yard will hopefully last me. And since it's a 108, it's a big piece of fabric, so it's
I gotta know what is the one. What did you buy?
I bought the Untamed 108 backing.
Did you really?
I did. I don't like florals, but the quilt that Beth's gonna work on for me, it makes sense.
Okay.
It works because the one that I worked on has flowers on it. And so I was like, okay, I don't really like florals. I'm not a huge floral person. Even with Tula Pink's florals, the only florals that I like from Tula Pink so far have been the dripping roses. Those are my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
But I still like the color scheme, and I still like so Tula came out with 2 different colorways of that. There's like a orangey red and then a blue purple. And originally, because the quilt front was, I was thinking like, oh, I need to have the back match. And then I'm like, forget that. I'm just going to go with what I want. So on the backing fabric,
conversation we had last night.
It was the exact conversation, and I had that same conversation again in my head when I was ordering the fabric, because I'm like, what does it matter? It's on the quilt back. It's only going to get seen because this is a quilt that I'm hoping will be entered into shows. So the only time somebody's going to see the back is if somebody asks to see the back, and the quilt fairy lifts the back of it up. but nobody's going to see it for the most part. So I wanted to, I also looked at fabric that was less expensive. But it didn't strike my fancy. And I was just like, I want something that I love because I know I'm going to have a little bit of extra with it.
Yeah.
I want something that I love and can use in other projects. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to order a little extra. And even though this isn't my favorite fabric from her, I know I can still use it. And I'm still going to like whatever I use it for. So
that makes sense.
Yep. This was a super tangent. We have gone out to like Pluto and come back.
We're talking about quilt backings now.
Yep.
I think I've covered all of my tips.
Yeah.
Like it take the break. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to pay the project forward or work on something else.
Declare quilt bankruptcy.
Declare quilt bankruptcy. Absolutely. Find something that does bring you joy temporarily. Put your project into time out. Sew with friends. Find some inspiration. Claim that quick win.
Yes.
Maybe a project that doesn't require brain power, doesn't require any decisions.
It's interesting because this is going to go way off the deep end, but AI is becoming a thing.
Stay tuned. I've got a project in mind.
AI is becoming a thing. I have seen people on the internet basically role play with AI and tell AI,
stop telling them the content I'm making.
Oh.
But keep going. You're fine.
My bad.
Just make sure you're subscribed to my channel because I got something coming with AI.
There you go. But like they ask AI to be like, for instance, somebody has anxiety.
Yeah.
And they were like, ChatGPT, be my anxiety and let's have a conversation. And they actually talk through what the anxiety was and where it was coming from. So I feel like, and I've never done it, so I don't know myself, but I feel like AI might be able to help, like, walk us through.
So you went to a different place.
Yeah.
You went to a different place.
Yeah.
Keep going, and then I'll fill in where my brain is.
Well, I feel like AI could help you walk you through how can I get that muse back, or what is causing me to not have the muse anymore. So,
I feel like once you figure out what's causing you to not have the muse, it's easier to get over too. Just
absolutely.
like anytime you're working on your mental health, right?
Yeah.
And once you identify what the root of the problem is, it's easier for you to be like, oh, now I know why I do this thing, and it's easier for me to navigate around.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's what I got.
So the AI, where my brain was going, I have a fantasy, and it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but I want to make a quilt with AI.
Ooh.
So I'm not sure what that'll look like, but I know it's something that I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
And I want to see, like, is this a success or is this a failure, right? AI can do so much stuff. Can it I want to put it to the test.
Oh yeah.
So
definitely.
It'll probably be in the new year. I don't know, but I'm really excited about that video.
I'm hopeful it'll do better.
We'll see.
Than what I got when I put in AI. I put in a prompt. I said, do you know who the Off Kilter Crafter is? Which it was scary because it did. It knew exactly who I was.
Did it come back and go, yes, it's you?
No, it did not do that, but it did describe that I was a YouTuber and that I have a quirky personality. Like it went into
it just
some
read
like
your about.
it was like, whoa, this is a little scary about how much it knew about me. And then I was like, okay, write an episode of write a YouTube script for me. And it came back and it was like, it gave me shot list and script for what I needed to do. And it was like, literally, hi, I am Ian, the Off Kilter Crafter. Today, we are going to make a snow globe. Let's do the thing. Like, it was very robotic. It didn't have any of my personality in it. It's weirdly enough, I mean, it did pick up that I used to be a paper crafter and like other crafter. And so it totally did not give me anything sewing related whatsoever. And then it listed off all the supplies, and one of the items that it listed was like a glue stick, and it never used the glue stick in the project whatsoever. It was like, get a glue stick. And I started reading the rest of it. I'm like, where do I use the glue stick? There's no instructions for the glue stick. So
that's just like when you tell AI to generate an image.
Yeah.
And the person has 6 fingers.
Yes. Yep.
Or the words are misspelled.
Yep.
Or the words are there that you never asked for.
Right.
Like you can, I've gotten like, I won't say I'm an expert, but there are certain traits that you can be like, that's an AI image.
Yeah. Definitely. So it was very interesting to see. And Casey Neistat, who is like one of the most famous YouTubers of all time, when AI was really coming to the scene and getting started, he did the same thing where he was like, hey, write a Casey Neistat video. And he did what the AI told him to do, like shot list, script, and everything. And it's the most boring video in the world.
Okay, so the AI is not going to write my video.
No.
But I'm going to have it help me design the quilt.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you'll have to stay tuned for that. It's on my bucket list.
I'm excited.
It's on my bucket list.
I'm excited to see what that does.
So maybe that can be another tip for you when you've lost your muse, when the muse is loose. When you lose your muse, let ChatGPT design your project.
It might just weirdly help you out. It might. Again, it's that decision fatigue. Maybe it will help with that decision fatigue.
Well, Ian, I have got talking fatigue.
Okay.
I'm done talking. So I'm ready for some dinner and some Masked Singer. And ironically, I want to get in front of the Pro Stitcher again.
Shock
and awe. I cannot wait. Like, I really want to quilt that one quilt, but I want a minky back, so I'm going to have to quilt something else.
Yep.
But I think it's time to sign off.
I think it is too. Want to remind everybody, first of all, thank you for subscribing and watching our podcast and listening to our podcast. We greatly appreciate y'all being here. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. And of course, if there are topics that you want to hear us talk about here on the channel, don't forget to go to SewBecca.com.
Link in the description box.
Yep, link in the description box. Go to SewBecca.com. There is a place where you can fill out a form and let us know what you want to see and hear here on the podcast. And of course, you can always leave us a comment down below. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of today's episode, along with other things that you would like to hear and see from us. And Becca, I think this podcast is finished, and finished is better than perfect.
Oh, he found a tagline.
I think we did. What do you think?
I've been saying that for years. Finished is better than perfect.
Finished is better than perfect. So on that note, bye everyone.
Bye guys. Wait, didn't you do that last time?
Yep.
I'm ready for dinner.
Me too.
Bye friends.
Bye.